Hello, everyone. Good morning. Suzanne Taylor King here for the Productive and Prosperous Entrepreneur Coffee Chat. And I couldn't be more excited to be here today with Kristy Crippen. And I love her so much. What I love how she brings organization and productivity to business owners. Good morning, Kristy.
Good morning, Suzanne. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. What do you call yourself anyway? Like, what's your job title?
Virtual administrator.
Nice.
When I started my company, I billed myself as a virtual assistant. And not long after I started my company, I was having a session with my business consultant. And she said to me one day, she said, you're different from what people think of as a traditional virtual assistant. And all of a sudden I went, okay, I get it. So then I really started leaning into that. And that's why I call myself a virtual administrator.
I love it.
Thank you.
And I want you to know that my future goals for my business include being able to say to you, Kristy, how do I hire you and be your only client? That's how much I love what you do.
Thank you. I think the world of you. When we hear all the time about having an ideal client, and I think of you. Your heart and your passion and your beautiful soul and what you do for people. And I just feel so energetically aligned with you. So thank you for that.
I know. I feel the same way. So, all right. Well, let's get past the crushing on each other.
Okay.
And let's get to productivity and prosperity as a business owner. For me, I want to know what your number one productivity hack for not only yourself, but for your clients. What can you share with us today?
There are so many moving parts to being a business owner. And we are taught that we have to do it all. And we are, I think, also taught that if we can't do it all, there's something wrong with us. And it's really the complete opposite is true. There are things that are within our wheelhouse and that are our natural gifts. Those I like to call that our zone of genius. Those things that only that we can do. And then everything else, like, can it be automated? Can it be outsourced? Can it be streamlined somehow? Are there things that you're doing that maybe you don't even need to be doing? When we start our businesses, we're babes in the woods and we're just cobbling stuff together. We're, duct taping things. We've got pulleys and everything, and just trying to figure out a semblance of making our business work. And then we get into a rhythm and we're doing doing the do for a while. And maybe there are things that we needed to do in the beginning of our business when we first started up, and we're still doing it later on. And we never stop to think, like, I don't need to be doing this anymore. So for me, my biggest thing is take a look at everything you do. Really give yourself the gift of that time. Just do a brainstorm. Whether you're old fashioned and you do the pen and paper, or you crack open a Word document, whatever that is for you, just start making that list and look at, 2 columns or however you want to set it up. What's my zone of genius? And then what can be outsourced or streamlined or whatever. And then look at that. And every time you think of something new, add it to that list in the appropriate section. And then really start looking at, okay, how do I remedy things and empower myself in the process so that I'm living in my zone of genius?
Yeah. I love that. And I think that self-awareness piece is really key. When I first started, I didn't really notice what I liked to do and what I didn't like to do. I didn't notice what had an ROI and what didn't. I was just doing all the things. And I remember really diving into what not to do.
Right.
And that's been really helpful. Where does that fall? When you're looking at this list of things you need to do, or things that are in your zone of genius, there's certain things that produce no revenue that maybe are a headache for
Mhm.
you, that aren't bringing you, people, clients, or even likes and follows. Like, I don't agree with going for that, but things that you're doing that aren't doing anything for your business,
Right.
but yet you feel like you still have to do it, which
Right.
is absurd.
Right. Yeah. There are so many things that are integral to our businesses that have to get done,
Mhm.
but it doesn't mean that we have to do them. I have a client who has a VA who she's an overseas VA. She lives in the Philippines. She's incredible. And yet my client is so used to doing so many things
Yeah.
herself and having done them for so long that we'll be in a planning meeting, we'll be on Zoom, and I'll say to her, "Hey, not for nothing, but is that something you could give to so and so?" And then all of a sudden, I see like the light bulb just goes
Oh, yeah.
on, and she
Mhm.
goes, "You know what? You're right. You're right." And then she she will then go into Zoom and she'll film, or not film, she'll record herself going step by step, and she'll create this tutorial for her, and then she'll have the conversation with her and say, "Hey,
Mhm.
is this something you could take on for me?" Or I guess she'll talk to her first and then do the tutorial. But then I always encourage her. I say, "Well, if you give that to your VA, how much time is that going to save you?"
Yeah.
Maybe it's something that she does once a week and it's 20 minutes.
Mhm.
So I always tell people, really, like, pretend like it's like you're at the grocery store, and how much is a bag of apples and how much is this and how much is that. Apply that same logic to give a time value to everything that you do. And
Love
because
that.
that is it's about flipping the script in our head.
Mhm.
And it's also about, we hear all the time, Suzanne, about the power of visualization.
Mhm.
Visualize what it would be like to hand off this task, whatever it is, to your trusted assistant.
Yeah.
And then you go, "I don't have to do this anymore."
Gosh, I'm thinking about it for myself as you're talking. I there's something I do every week that is very repetitive. I don't outsource it because I do it on Monday. I make, 3 graphics for the week, and it takes me 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it takes me 15 minutes. It might take me longer than
Mm.
that, but I'm going to look at that because of this conversation. Um, the graphic for this conversation for my live stream show, I literally make it every Monday with my guest for Friday.
Mm.
Well, that's something that could be done months in advance. I could
Oh,
make
yeah.
20 of them at a time. I'm booked out till August every Friday. There's no reason I need to be doing that.
Yeah. Batching is so
Batching.
key,
Well,
because
it's
we're
key with food. So of
right.
course it's key with social media or graphics or content. That makes so much sense.
Right. It, or even say like, um, QuickBooks. If you hire, I have a wonderful, wonderful bookkeeper.
Mhm.
And so I will go in and categorize everything for her. And then she takes care of the reconciling of
Mm,
my books every single month. And so I have a reminder in my reminder app. So every Monday, I just pop into QuickBooks, boom, boom, boom. I go down the list, clean slate. I feel
yeah.
great. And I mean, imagine if you logged in every single day and you did like 1, 2 here and there, and then
Mhm.
you feel good because it's done, but then it's like, "Oh, I got to log back in again." Even
Yeah.
if it takes you 5 seconds to log in, it's not just the time piece, it's the emotional and energetic impact that it has on you.
Yes. It's the task switching. We think we're multitasking,
Mm-hmm.
and I see people doing it during networking events, I see them, looking over here to another screen when they're supposed to be here. I can see people reading emails or doing something on their phone.
Right.
And you think you're multitasking. You think you're being uber efficient. But you're really, every time you switch back and forth, oh, let me look at that, and then come back here, and then that's task switching. You're
Right.
not multitasking. And the energy required to task switch that
Right.
quickly all day long
Right.
is flippin' exhausting. And people don't understand that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we're also at the risk of, if think of like our brain. If we are 100% focused on whatever the thing is that we're working on, that's great, because the entirety of you is married to what it is you're doing in that moment. So you're much less at risk of missing something, making a mistake, your mind wandering. When your mind is split, you're 60% here, 40% here, you are so much at a greater risk of making that error. And that error can be costly. Potentially. It's costly, not just financially, but also to your time, but it's also costly, like, to your blood pressure, to your mental and emotional well-being. And it's like, for years, I worked in that office setting. I was that friendly face when you come into an office. I was the receptionist, and I loved what I did all those years for different companies. But it's, you're sitting there working, and then people come up, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? And then it takes time to get your brain back onto what it is you. I read something recently. I think it was out of the University of Southern California. They had done a study where they said it could take you as long as like 17 or 19 minutes for your brain to reestablish itself, to go back and be fully focused on what you were working on.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've said that exact thing to my 14-year-old son when he comes home from school. Now, I'm not with a client for that half hour because I noticed I wanted to engage with him. I wanted to talk to him. He wanted to talk to me, which I'm thankful for that, right? That might not last too much longer. But I wanted to not be split attention-wise for that half hour. And it's been amazing, not only for our connection, but for my sanity. Because if I was in the middle of doing something, I had that split attention, and it doesn't work.
No.
And it would take me so long to get back into flow or back into concentration that it just wasn't worth it. So I just block out that half hour now, and I don't try to do anything during that time. So that's been liberating.
And it makes that time with your son that much more special. It's like, this is my time with my son, and you're so fiercely protective of that.
Yeah. And I know I want to address something with entrepreneurs in general. We tend to put other people's needs, clients, prospects ahead of our own, personally, maybe our family.
Yep.
And having someone like you really helps with that. Enabling an entrepreneur to put themselves at the top of the list again. And I think that freedom is really amazing. I was reading something from you. I don't know whether it was a LinkedIn post or a blog post that you shared. And I was like, wow, whatever you were talking about struck me, that would make me feel so abundant if you were taking care of that for me, and I could focus on Suzanne for that time. And what is that like to give that time back for your clients?
Hands down, it's one of the most rewarding components of what I do. It's one of the reasons why I get out of bed every morning. When someone says to me, hey, I just got to tell you, I can't thank you enough for doing XYZ for me so that I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
But when they say, oh, when they quantify it further and say, oh, it's saving me a good 2 hours a month. And with that time, I've been able to go on more client appointments. I've been able to work on XYZ in my business that I have been delaying working on because now my head is not thinking about this thing that I didn't, that I have to do. And I tell people, I give them the visual, like think of a pie chart and you've got all of the different, slices. And as business owners and entrepreneurs, we tend to have the whole pie be 100% is us as a business owner or entrepreneur. It's almost like it overlays over everything else. But if you really think about it, that business pie slice, it's going to be a big piece of that pie, but it's not the whole pie. You as an individual, that should be the biggest pie slice, right?
Yeah.
You've got your vacation pie slice. You've got your, if it's like religion, spirituality, that, pie slice. You've got the hobbies pie slice. There are so many facets to us as human beings.
Yeah.
And they get swept under the rug. And then that rug like gets rolled up and donated to Goodwill. And we're like, where did I go? Where and I want people to be able to go to their child's ball game. I don't want them to feel like, oh, they're looking down on their phone, scrolling through their email, and then they hear the crack of the bat and they look up and now they've missed their child hit that home run, And I want them to be fully immersed in their lives. I want them to go out on a date with their sweetie and look at them across the table and not feel like, oh, I've got to pick my phone up.
Yeah. I mean, I love this so much because I feel as though I got tied to the computer so much during the pandemic.
Right.
And now within the past 6 months, I've been breaking that pandemic habit.
Great.
I never, ever, when I started coaching, I was on the phone with clients or in person at my office. Well, once the pandemic hit, it was, hell, I'm lonely. You're lonely. Let's meet on Zoom. So at least we're seeing other people.
Right.
And I immediately noticed how much time I used to be able to go to the grocery store and talk to a client, go to, Starbucks, talk to a client, go for a walk, talk to a client, be on the beach, talk to a client. And I missed that, being able to be mobile, being able to go to the beach for a week and still have my client appointments, be able to go to the mountains for a week and still talk to my clients. And so I made a decision to take that bind to the computer out of the equation. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And it's been so freeing to really lean back into. I have a couple clients I support on Voxer. I might talk to them every day. I love it.
Yeah.
Because if I have 3 messages sitting there right now to answer or questions, I can do that anytime. And that feels good for me.
Yeah.
Might not feel good for someone else, but I think coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs in general need to do what feels good for them. And So, what's next for you in the
Mm.
growth of your business? What feels good to you right now? What are you leaning into?
I am leaning into showing up every single day in a bigger, bolder, and braver way. For so
Oh,
long, I lived my life in such a meek way. And that awful fear of judgment. And I know that there are people who are hearing our conversation, either live or later on, who are internally going, I know that
mhm,
judge. I know that judge.
mhm.
Yeah. And so I'm just looking at how do I show up, even if it's just 1% more powerful than I did yesterday.
Love that.
And about making those conscious decisions that, like you were saying, that feel really good. That, okay, well, I've been doing things a certain way in my business, but I've grown and changed. My business has grown and changed. So is this serving me? So I'm going through all these different facets of my business and just saying, okay, what could use a revamp?
Mm,
What could use a tidying up? Maybe, and not everything in our lives and in our businesses need this complete overhaul. It might just be like a little 2-degree little, and then you go, oh, that's the ticket. That's the spot.
yep.
Other things, yeah, like we need to kind of rewrite the script, and that's okay too. And that's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing too.
Yeah, I love that because sometimes I notice people get stuck in the tweaking mode. Oh, I'm not ready to sell that yet. I still have to tweak the sales page, or oh, I didn't write the email yet. I still need to tweak it.
Mm,
And that tweaking process is just perfectionism and fear of putting yourself out there. And when you let go of that, and I'm going to share that my most profitable email of all time in 15 years of sending emails,
mm.
my most profitable one had 9 words.
Wow.
No story, no nothing. Was just, are you ready to make 2020 your best year yet? Hit
Amazing.
reply.
Oh, I love that.
Who freaking knew? Like, I did it on a whim.
Yeah.
I did it because I was studying email copywriting and I read a book about 16 words. If you can't say what you want to say in 16 words, you're inserting too many words.
Mm.
And that really stuck with me.
I love that. I think there's something so magical about that,
Mhm.
because tweaking for sure has its place, because you want to make sure that your thoughts are cohesive and you've got proper grammar and punctuation and all, the whole
Yeah,
thing.
that's different.
But yes, but as a perfectionist, that's one of my biggest saboteurs is
Mm,
perfectionism. It's something that I am every day battling up against, and I have to rise up above that. And you're right. If you go to that trusted resource, like go to your business coach and say, hey, this is what I've crafted. What do you think? If your coach says, I think it looks great, ship it, ship
mhm.
it,
Yeah.
ship it. And yeah, it's like, what are the regrets we have if we don't ship it and we just sit on it? And
Yeah.
the more that we keep going back and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking, the energy starts to dissipate. And that it's
Mhm.
that energy of I will send it. And it's like we get in our heads, and it's this spiraling vortex of
Yeah.
pain. And there are so many times where I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, this is really, I've never been this bold before saying something this way. Is this
Mhm.
okay? And then my inner knowing is like, girl, you better hit that post button. And she's sassy Irish woman, this my inner self.
Yeah.
And and then I post it, and then somebody will say something, and then I'm like, doggone it, I am so glad I posted that.
Yeah. Yeah. Every time I have a little bit of fear of saying something like, "Ugh, well, that's how I feel, so I'm
Yeah.
just gonna do it."
Yeah.
And I literally channel a personal trainer I had a long time ago who was brutal to me. And I used to be pretty brutal in the gym, but this guy he was a Spartan athlete, super demanding, almost like David Goggins type, like no BS. And he said to me, if you're scared to post or you're scared to say something to somebody that's totally honest within your heart, you're not living up to your potential. And man, that stuck with me. And it just, I won't say it made me fearless, but it definitely makes me appear fearless. There's still things I hold back on saying, but it encouraged me in a way that really has made a difference in my business. So if I can encourage you that way, awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I always draw so much inspiration from your posts, and you speak in such an authentic way, and I take that in on the cellular level, and
You.
you're welcome. And it's like, who, like you said, like who inspires you and who is that force for change within you. And for me, I remember somebody saying to me one time in the not too distant past, they said, when you have those moments where you feel that inner urging to do something, pay attention to that. Listen, lean in and listen up, because that's your future self talking to you.
Love that.
And it's like one step forward. Who knows what that one step forward can lead to?
Yeah.
Who knows what that conversation with that one person can lead to? It can change the trajectory of your business, of your life. And we just want to honor our gifts and why we were put on this earth, because people need what we offer. And if we diminish our light, then people can't see us. When you put your bat signal up in the sky so that people look up and go, oh, I need Suzanne, there's her bat signal. If you let your batteries run down and then it's like very faint and then people can't see it, they are missing out on this amazing opportunity to work with you. And I say that for anybody who's out there doing the do every day.
Yeah, I love that so much, because it's so, so true that I will share that in the past 3 or 4 months, I've had 3 new one-on-one clients that came from somebody I was already connected to, somebody I already know, like, trust, and they feel the same way about me. And I saw them doing something that did not serve their business. Something probably nobody else would ever notice, but I listen really well. And I'm observant of people's online funnels, the things they're doing. And I literally called all 3 of them out on it. Hey, Bob, I notice you're doing XYZ with your, whatever. And if you tweak that to this, you'll get much more people, or you'll get more comments, or you'll get whatever. And they didn't like it. But guess what? They hired me. And I was like, So radical honesty. And, I'm not being bitchy when I'm being honest. I'm asking, hey, Kristy, is posting like that getting you people on your calendar? And you say no. Would you like me to solve that for you? Well, yeah, Sue, thank you. And then you've just provided massive value to someone. And this is something that I think is a big misconception. Providing value to another person is not pitching them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah.
It's interesting because for so long I was so used to being the task doer. That was my identity. And
Mhm.
my and I see how my self-worth was so directly tied to that. And then as my business evolved and I started getting more into the collaboration side, the brainstorming, the holding the sacred space for people,
Yeah.
and one day I realized something wasn't right in here. And I dug into it with Laura Templeton, our wonderful Laura, and
Mm.
30
Oh,
Second Success, right? I know,
yeah.
she's so amazing. And she looked at me, she goes, girlfriend, she said, just because you are having a conversation with someone and not typing something or filing something, she said, you are still offering value for them because you're getting them to think and feel. And it was like, man, the barn doors blew wide open and the chickens ran out and the goats and the cows, and that was a pivotal moment for me. So I think what you're saying is so spot on.
Yeah. Well, it's so important to remember that listening, I would say 90% of my coaching is listening and intuition combined,
Yeah.
and knowing what the other person needs, wants, where they see themselves going. And I feel like you're so similar to me in that you're a great listener, you're a
Thank
great
you.
hand holder, you're a great supporter, champion for your clients. And I think that's really ultimately what people want when they hire somebody. I've never had a client say to me, "Wow, you know what? I got great results from that coach I hired that I never talked to in that giant group program." Never had someone say that. So, I love the fact that you're personal, you're connected with your clients. And what does that look like for you moving forward? What do you have happening right now that people can jump into?
I am not certified as a coach, but probably in 2024, that's something that's so
Mm.
near and dear to my heart, is I want to become certified. And I'm leaning towards life coach because I feel like it's so married into the business
Mhm.
piece.
Yeah.
One really feeds into the other.
Mhm.
Um, but that's something that with every passing day, that volume keeps getting turned up in my soul. And
Mm.
you're right. People, and I think some people wouldn't admit that, like, oh, I'm fine, I don't need help. But yet everybody needs, hey,
Yeah.
well done.
Yeah.
And hey,
Yeah.
let's look at that. What would it be like for you if you did do that? How would that make you feel?
Yeah.
And you're right. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, it would make me feel relieved. And I think that we turn away from that and we just keep, grinding forward and being in action, and then it's the end of the day and we are depleted.
Oh my gosh, yes. There's nothing worse than feeling like you didn't accomplish anything at the end of the day.
Right.
Um, I think feeling defeated, feeling like you didn't accomplish what you wanted to. Um, I think habits are so important. It's one of
Yes.
the first things I do with my clients. What are your daily habits? But I love the idea of being more productive, doing less things, and that's what you're all about. How can people get in touch with you after this amazing conversation?
Thank you. This was such a delight. They can go to my website, collaborativepartnersadmin.com.
Awesome.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
if they would like, at um, the top of my website, if they want to put their name and their email address, and they will get a little swag. So
Nice.
it's some tips about how to have a week filled with clarity and productivity. And if they feel called to, they can stay on my email list. I send my newsletter out the first Saturday of every month, and I offer tips on productivity and habits and organization
Love
and
it.
but also getting at the heart. I talk about that heart stuff and the importance of like life stuff that gets lost in the shuffle for us business owners and entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to encourage you on your life coaching certification
Thank you.
journey. I'll send you a couple of my favorites to look at so you can start planning.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Well, Kristy is one of the amazing members of the Idea Lab community. I'm going to encourage her to go live in our Facebook group, which I'll put the link below for you to join. I'm going to encourage Kristy to go live in that safe environment and share some of her productivity tips, which are right up my alley. And Kristy, thanks for joining us today on the Productive and Prosperous Entrepreneur Coffee Chat. I appreciate you, love you, and I can't wait for more people to connect with you.
Suzanne, thank you for this invitation to be here with you today. This was so special, and
You're welcome.
I've never done anything live before, so you made this so easy. This was
Well, it is easy.
yes.
It is. All
Yes.
right. Have a great
Thank you.
day.
You too.